Awesome. Thank you so much, Mary. I don't know if I can see Azad. Azad, if you're here, could you do a request to co-host, and then we'll make sure we're recording before we jump right in. Okay, I'll find them at some. Oh, here we go. Okay, Azad, invite to co-host. All right, let's wait for the 10 seconds to propagate. Okay, while we're waiting for that, there we go. Azad, you're now co-host. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Sorry about that. It's recording, so all good.
Awesome. Okay, so do you want to do the inviting people up, or do you want Mary to do it?
It's all good.
Okay. All right, we're fighting of the co-hosts. So Mary, do you want to invite some people up?
Yes. I want to say welcome everybody. That was a great YouTube video. Your energy was amazing, and I'm inviting up the janitor.
Hey, can everyone hear me?
Yes,
I can hear you well.
All right. Thanks for doing that video, Simon. That was pretty fun to watch there. It's a questions for you. I always find it kind of interesting and fascinating to hear about everyone's story and how they got into Bitcoin. And usually a lot of those stories kind of go, they kind of like start with, yeah, I hear about Bitcoin once, and then I kind of dismissed it. And then I heard it a couple years later, and then I got into it or whatever. I just find it really fascinating and interesting that you were able to grasp it immediately, seems like. And I just wanted to kind of understand why you had that natural affinity towards it. Is it because of a certain ideology you held, because of your monetary reformist days, or was it just kind of like a alignment of stars of where you were just kind of like chosen to kind of understand it like right away? That's my first question, and I had a quick one after that.
Okay, let me take that first. That's an awesome question. So I'll tell you the truth. It was an alignment of stars, and it was because I was part of the monetary reform community before I was part of the Bitcoin community. So I started in the monetary reform community in 2005. So Bitcoin, 14 years ago today, we had the Bitcoin white paper. But I was more skeptical, is my confession. The reason I was at the first Bitcoin conference is through sheer desperation, and because Bliss Dixon dragged me to the first Bitcoin conference. I wanted to be there, but we really were tight on money, and we were just absolutely broke. But she's always been 5,000 steps ahead of everything. And that's what's really got us to where we are today, just pure foresight. And she just knew and had an intuition that it was absolutely, we needed to be there. And then obviously, because we were trying to create a bank, I'd just been rejected. We had a meeting with the regulators, and they told us, so I wanted to create a bank where you could own your own money, spend your own money, hold things in custody, basically, and then do it with some kind of trust structure, so we couldn't rehypothecate the money. And they told us we couldn't do any of that. They said, you've got to put 60 million in the Bank of England, which could be used in the repo markets for other banks. Then you also needed to build it on top of a clearing bank. There was only 5 clearing banks, and Barclays was the most likely to do it, which meant that the money would have been rehypothecated by Barclays. And they said, you've got to have, you're going to have to obviously get in the way of every transaction as well, because of that. So I was just really, really down. I didn't see a solution. And then when we went there, Bitcoin presented this way, and I was like, these geeks were just presenting this thing. And my friend, who was part of the monetary reform community, he changed his handle to Johnny Bitcoin. And he moved out of his house, sold it, and moved into a squat in London in Old Street with some of the very early Bitcoin developers. And I was so curious at why he would actually sell his house to do that and put all his money in Bitcoin. And that was really what intrigued me. And then when I went geeky into the book, I thought, okay, this actually fulfills what I wanted. So screw trying to create a bank. Let's just fund the companies that want to build Bitcoin. So we pivoted to securities business, and we just got it because I was studying the subject, and Bitcoin solved the problems that we were trying to solve. So right place, right moment, and Bliss was the one that really pushed me into making sure we were there.
Awesome. We've got Craig.
Hello, can you hear me?
Can hear you, Craig.
Okay, great. Yeah, I just read the article on FTX and their rather convoluted relationship with Celsius, and I can't really quite grasp what's going on. You hear so many different sides, like a bank run, and then you see that they were very much involved with Celsius in a lot of different ways. And I wanted to get any insights you have on how you're looking at it.
Okay, let me answer that honestly. So I'm so focused on, creditors and doing what's right for creditors right now that I'm kind of done on the whole what happened to Celsius. Initially, that was a really big focus of mine. I think I know enough to just focus on recovery right now and supporting creditors. And so I'll put some more energy into it when the time is right. And right now, I've got a million things I can focus on. And right now, I've got a mantra in my mind, which is creditors first. And creditors first means that we need to focus all of our energy on the processes that are coming up, which is the bid, and supporting people in understanding how they can get their funds back. So I've released the 7-part video series on, if it becomes up to me, I'll give everybody whatever's left in crypto in custody. And then we'll also create a structure whereby you can gain access to all the assets that were bought with your money in order to try and fill the hole. So I'm just 100% focused on that. I think there's all sorts of shady shit that's happened. I'm sure that the examiner is going to investigate all that stuff. But what I want to do is construct a security whereby whatever things happen in the future along those lines, if we can have it that everybody benefits from any clawbacks or insider things or claims or whatever comes back, and it's an asset of creditors. So that's really my focus. I'd rather the examiner look at all that stuff a bit later once we're done with the bidding process and we're further along next year. And I'm pretty sure that there's all sorts of stuff between these different companies. Hopefully it highlights that FTX is not necessarily the most suitable bidder for this, and hopefully it gets us a bid plus reorg rather than just FTX coming along and taking all of these assets and making them benefit his shareholders and the $1 billion he's raising right now. So we shall see, but it's not getting much of my attention right now. So I'm not putting much energy into it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Simon, we currently don't have anyone in the queue right now. So if you want to just, expand upon your scariest moments, that would be great.
Okay, cool. I'd love for someone to share a scary moment or any of the scariest moments from their perspective. I'd love to hear from you. So please, maybe it's recent ones like some of the scariest moments in Celsius and how now you may be feeling better. I'd love to hear any of those things. There we go. We've got a few requests now. Or maybe there was a moment that you'd like me to elaborate on that I didn't cover. There was another 10 that I would love to have covered. But maybe we'll do some requests here. So I think we've got some more requests coming up now, have we? No?
Yeah, Ronan is connecting.
Hey, Simon. Hey, Mary. Thanks. Yeah, Simon, that was an awesome video. Almost more from a not only scary moments, but also just a historical perspective. It's like clear you're one of the founding fathers. So getting your perspective not only from the history of the whole industry is very educational. But I would say my scariest moment was Bitcoin late 2016, no idea what I was doing, bought some on Coinbase. I had originally seen a Facebook post and a guy had said, get into Bitcoin. I asked him about it. He originally linked me to Anthony Antonopoulos, so I was off to an awesome start. And then the whole, exactly like you described in the video, the debate between Bitcoin, BCH, And exactly like when you started talking about when it was pumping, and I had my little stash of Bitcoin, and I'm like, is Bitcoin now dead? Do I need to convert it all over to BCH? And then I had no idea what to do, and I was literally terrified. Like so many different people saying so many different things, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna hold what I got. Ultimately, it ended up being the right thing, and I just think about if I'd converted everything over to BCH, and then I went back and I found the guy who had originally on a Facebook message, and I reached back and found out that this guy had turned into like a whole Craig Wright supporter, BCH and Satoshi's vision and all this, and I was like,
Yeah.
I completely dodged a bullet. So your history lesson, it makes us think about all. I mean, we're stuck in this issue now that I think we're all future focused, solutions focused. But if you just think back on your own personal scary moments, like there's times when you could have been, it could have been way worse than it is. So thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, the BCH one was pretty crazy. I remember if anyone wants to be geeky, we did the BCH BTC hard fork. And I was on Tone Vei's YouTube channel, and we did the whole thing live. And I sold some of my BCH on the Kraken exchange live. I think I was one of the first ones to sell it. But that was a bad trade initially because it pumped like crazy. And I thought I'd got egg on my face. Because I'd done it on a live broadcast. It was like an 8-hour live broadcast on the Tone Vei show. And then we did the UASF and stuff like that. These were crazy times. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'd love to hear more stories. I think this is so awesome to just hear like people's scary moments and crazy moments. I'll tell you 2 of my craziest investments that I missed. I was at the original pitch by CZ in Chengdu when he was going to launch BNB token, and I didn't invest. That was one that I missed. I was pitched the BitMEX equity round, seed round, and they wanted to go live on Bank to the Future, and it didn't quite get through the DD, and then just became the hugest futures market in such a period of time. I was there with him in Hong Kong when he was pitching it as a startup, and missed that one. Those were 2 scary misses, and I tried to get back in, and they never allowed me back in after.
Tell you something. I'll tell you a scary moment for my husband and I. We actually could not find our seed phrase. Couldn't find it for like a couple of days, and then we realized, ironically, we had it in our safety deposit box at the bank, but we couldn't find it for 2 days, and that was a scary moment for us.
Oh, that is really scary. Yeah, when you also I remember some of the other scary moments was like when you first try your Trezor wallet for the first time, you plug it in, you get it all set up, you send over some Bitcoin, and then you plug it in again like a few weeks later, and it's telling you make sure you got your seed phrase and everything. You check it like 50,000 times before you upgrade the software, and every moment that you're upgrading the software, you're thinking, is this a hacker? Am I going to lose my Bitcoin? And then you just discover that actually you can open up these, like, just discovering that it exists because of the seed phrase, and you can actually open it up in a Ledger wallet, or you can open it up in any other type of wallet as well. But it's petrifying when you first go through that process.
You definitely don't want to make any mistakes there.
Yeah. Okay, have we got any more requests? Who'd like to share some more scary moments in Bitcoin, or even ask about some scary moments in Bitcoin? Don't be shy. We've got a shy audience today.
Maybe they're getting ready to go trick-or-treating.
Yeah, maybe it's too much. If we don't find any, I haven't got anything else to say other than take your questions. This is your moment, and hear your stories.
Simon, I had one where, similar to Mary, where I live, there can be a lot of hurricanes, and I had a friend who was out of town contact me after this hurricane. He had me going back through his house that had been wrecked by this hurricane, looking for his Trezor wallet, and I was like, dude, this is not the way you do things. But same thing. He didn't know that you can just port, seed phrases from wallet to wallet. And I'm like, do you have your seed phrase? He's like, yeah. I'm like, dude, you're good, man. Quit stressing out. So
I remember I can say this one because it's public information. It's like a well known, but the Bitcoinica hack, which was the second major exchange after Mt. Gox. People don't know about it. It was, what was his name? Zhao Tong was the founder. He's part of CoinJar now, actually, which still exists in Australia. But the phrase was like, firstly you were Mt. Gox, and then you were Zhao Tonged. But Roger Ver, I think he had 25,000 bitcoins on the Bitcoinica exchange that disappeared. Ouch, 25,000 bitcoins. I think, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we've got another possible scary story here. We got Crypto Crank up on the stage.
Hey guys, I don't know about you, man, but for me, when I was making, I like getting familiarized with Bitcoin transaction and everything in the very beginning, when you first make that very large like transaction, and the network's like kind of congested, and you're just sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting, and it's still like in pending mode or something like that, and you're constantly looking back. You're like, did I send it to the right address? Did I not? What is going on? Why is it not coming through? Anybody else catch that one, man?
Oh, it's absolutely petrifying. Yeah, I remember during the block size debate, we had the ICO boom, the block size debate, and congestion was insane. We had transactions that I would send, and it would take like 2 to 3 weeks or something to get through the network. That was a really scary time. Yeah, and it was just, there was so much traffic, and the network just couldn't handle it. And the mempool was filling up, and there was just hundreds of thousands of transactions in the queue to try and get through. And then, when you're sending them to an exchange, you don't have the same level of transparency, and you're seeing it on the blockchain cleared, but you don't see it pop up in the exchange. And you're sat there for that, and if it's going to come through or not. Yeah, I know exactly how you feel. I'm sure we all do.
And
Yeah, exactly.
transactions then were like $200-300.
Yeah, if you had a wallet where so I had one wallet where I'd been mining, and it had thousands and thousands of transactions that had never moved. And if you had a wallet that had received like loads and loads of smaller transactions, you could end up with a really high fee like that. Yeah, depending on the structure of your Bitcoin.
Hey, Tecmo.
Hey, yeah, I was just gonna say the most terrifying moment is literally just every single transaction you make on Encrypt. Every time you hit submit, you're just terrified. No matter how much experience you have, no matter how small the transaction, you're just like, well, I just sent my money to nowhere. So that's it.
Yeah, so one of the biggest features, like, of which allows for everything, is that irreversibility, but at the same time, it's just absolutely petrifying. I think the funniest one was watching Coinbase when they restructured their model, and I think they had to send like these $15 billion transactions over their network when they were switching from one cold storage, and they moved over to batching. And we were just watching these like $15 billion transactions pass through the network. Can you imagine how many people in Coinbase, how many times they wanted to press the button, but they were just not quite? How many times would you check before making that transaction?
I have to.
Sorry, Mary.
No, I was going to say, Tecmo, I have to agree with you. Every transaction is scary in itself.
Yeah, and I have a background in law enforcement. I've seized a bunch of crypto from various criminals, and the initial procedure to do so would have exchanges just send us the entire amount, and I was like, wait, you're just gonna send the whole thing to this one address I sent you, and you're not gonna send a test amount at all? Like, what's going on? Like, I was terrified. I was like, no, you have to send a test amount. This should be standard operating procedure.
Wow, they didn't want you to send a test transaction.
Yeah, they were just like, we're just gonna send you all of this criminal's money. Here you go. And I'm like, wait. I was like, can you just send me like $1 first, please?
Amazing.
Hey, Neo, you got a story for us?
Hi, how are you? Happy Halloween, everyone.
Hey, Neo.
Now, I want to comment regarding something that was said just now. I think we were talking about, fears of sending, Bitcoin or whatever your coin is, but mine is Bitcoin. And everybody's obviously petrified, the higher the amount, the more petrified you are. Now, I would like to, know Simon's take on this. Like, we're so used to, in today's system, to, make credit card payments and disputes if there's like something that doesn't go through, and even subscription to different services where every month you get paid you pay the same amount instead of. So, and if you have a business also, you have like subscription base where every month. Now, how do you see that evolving with Bitcoin payments? Because Bitcoin is settlement, right? So it's not credit, it's not. So how do you see those features being developed in a Bitcoin economy?
Yeah, I think, this has been a bit, something we've tried to solve all along, because if you're an e-commerce provider and you rely on subscriptions like Netflix or something, you're never going to get Netflix to use Bitcoin because their model is predicated on, put your details in and it automates. So, I invested in companies to solve those problems. So one of the companies I invested in was Coin Payments because they build all these layers. And so, just because you've got final settlement at the base layer doesn't mean that can't be innovated into, firstly, stuff on the second layer, but also centralized companies. And so I don't think you ever get rid of, these need for centralized companies and stuff. But I think it's a big problem to solve, and it's up to either entrepreneurs or hackers and coders to solve these problems. And this is the bit that I loved about Bitcoin. So I talked about that CNBC interview, and I just said, this is a real open source movement where people can just build on top of this protocol. And there's so much more for entrepreneurs to do and entrepreneurs to build, or just people that want to tinker around with projects. So my answer to all of these things is you've come up with a great problem, and now that's a problem for someone to solve. And they either create a company to solve it, or they create some smart contracts and open source code and fire up a new project to solve it. And that's what I loved so much about this. It went from just a few people figuring out. I remember when it was impossible to get a wallet on the iPhone because Apple had banned all Bitcoin wallets. Like, you couldn't get one on the iPhone, so I had to get an Android just to have. I think it was Mike Hearn. God, that was another scary moment as well. Mike Hearn, one of the most important project managers, developers in Bitcoin Core. He came out and just had a hissy fit, saying that Bitcoin's centralized, they're not going to increase the block size. I remember him giving a presentation about putting passports on the blockchain and him getting absolutely crucified because he wanted to put IDs and passports on the Bitcoin blockchain. All those experimental ideas. And then he did a hissy fit and went over and worked for R3, which was like the enemy of Bitcoin in the day. It was R3 was like the blockchain for banks. There was a big attack in 2013, 2014. There was a big attack on Bitcoin where banks tried to hide the name Bitcoin and just call it the blockchain. And they were like, the blockchain is going to change the world, but there's this evil thing called Bitcoin. And you don't need Bitcoin. You don't need a token. They just saw it as a database. That was a real attack. And I created a video where I was presenting in Australia, 2014, I think it was, where I was trying to share with all the banks that Bitcoin is actually what makes the blockchain work. And that it's not, blockchain doesn't work without it. But yeah, the bit that I love about it is just the sheer ability for you to come up with a problem. And I may not know the answer to that, but I'll certainly invest in a company that can put together a great team to try and solve that problem. And that's why we really created Bank to the Future. It was just these ideas are crazy and no one wanted to invest in them, but the Bitcoin community does. And then that obviously went to the Ethereum community, and now you've got these tens of thousands and lots of different layer ones, and everyone just builds out these communities around investing in projects, and then we go in circle. We have all our securities laws and various other things, and we just keep going around in circles around it. But each time we get stronger, bigger, and more technology is built. So yeah, those are still problems that haven't been solved, and they need to be solved. So look forward to people solving them.
Thank you for sharing.
Hello, Terry James.
Yeah, can you guys hear me? I'm driving right now, so I
Yes.
think I have service now, but yeah, you can hear me? Simon, can you hear me?
I can.
All right, great. Hey, thank you very much, Simon, for everything. That was a great speech over on YouTube. That was awesome. And for everything else you've done. And thank you, everyone else, for being here. I have a question. Not a scary story, but my question and forgive me, I've been trying to follow along everything. Not too sure of the numbers, but so Celsius, we have stable coins. And I was curious that when the bid goes through, or whomever bids it, if it was possible that in the new company or whatever company it would be, since I'm not sure if everyone is like myself, but I see Bitcoin going up to, in the next bull run, at least 100,000. But if we could have those stable coins bought, whatever it is, Bitcoin or Ethereum or just Bitcoin, and to make creditors whole, that is cashed out along the ways, maybe that would be implemented in the new company, that the stable coins, we buy Bitcoin now, and if we see those stable coins grow 5x from now, I mean, that would surely help fill the hole, and on top of that, I did have another point I was going to say.
Let me address that one then.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. So stables, they're going through their own motions. A lot of the stables have created ad hoc groups where they want them to be treated as secured creditors rather than unsecured creditors. There was a bunch of news about it today. I think there was motions filed around Paxos Gold, which is a gold-backed stable coin. I think they want to use the nature of the product to claim that it's a secured debt, but I personally don't see that argument going through, but it's up to the court. That's not for me to decide. And I think many people are trying to get their 100% haircut. What I was trying to do is move away from this being a scary moment where we're all fighting over lost coins. And so I'll try and keep it in theme and answer your question as a scary moment. And so if we could understand that there's actually only a couple of outcomes here. Firstly, I'd love to, if I were in charge, I'd love to give everyone Bitcoin and ETH. Personally, it's just me. I can't speculate for others, but I think it's a great time to own Bitcoin and ETH. If you're long-term thinking, it may crash a lot further. We've got a lot of uncertainty ahead. But to me, if you're long-term thinking, then great. And I'd love to just give it to everybody in custody, not lock them up, not force them into doing anything, give whatever's left in custody. And then also know that there's something that's very unique that can fill the hole, which is a fund or a public company, however we structure it, that is actually got a very potentially bright future. And so maybe you don't want your coins back. Maybe you just want more of that fund or that company. But maybe other people do want their coins back. But I just wanted to move everyone away from seeing this as a scary moment to actually somewhat of an opportunity. And so that's kind of the way I constructed it. So what you just said, that I put together a 7-part video series where I explained how I would achieve it. And I put it out to the community to give us feedback. I did lots of polls. And so far, a lot of people are in line with your belief as well. But at the same time, there are some people, we're not going to be able to please everyone. There's a compromise here. But if we can move away from the scary moment of scarcity, and recognize that there's actually just different risks that you may want to take, then maybe we can stop like really bickering and fighting so much. But the courts will resolve itself. We'll come up with solutions, hopefully that how you're thinking is how I would think. But not everyone thinks the same.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I'm glad you said the word polls, because my second part to this you know how they Celsius published the sheet of all the creditors, everyone's name is on it, and I was curious if there would be a way that somehow there could be a system, like a voting system, where every creditor's name, everyone had a vote in terms of seeing which plan all the creditors would like to vote for. I'm not saying that people who have more money get a bigger vote. I'm saying all those names that were published, and I don't know how many names that were published. I didn't do my due diligence, count them all, but I'm sure there was hundreds of thousands. But if everybody could vote, if there was some sort of system we can come up with that maybe the UCC can look at and see which way the whole community is swaying towards. I'm not sure if that matters, if it's just solely up to them or not, but I was just curious if there was something we could build or construct, that a website maybe we could all sign on and all give our vote in which way we're thinking.
Yeah, I think there's several initiatives that are trying to do that, and I think Bitshank, I'm not sure if he's here, but he's kind of put together these different steering groups, and Mary was involved in that. And I think there's websites that are launching. Mary could share a bit more about, but it's totally would be great if we could do it. It's just a question of what processes do we control and what processes don't we control. Well, we can't change the bankruptcy code or bankruptcy law, and we can't change the fact that quite rightly there's lots of laws around privacy and access to information, and we opted in to give those to Celsius, and Celsius controls that data. So as much as we'd love to do it, Celsius controls that process because we voluntarily gave Celsius that data. So that's the only way we can do it. But what we have been doing is thinking, well, what things can we solve? So at Bank to the Future, we did a bit of an innovation session, and we came up with a Chapter 11 bidder financing product. And so we're going to be launching and beta testing it because we've done a few of these bankruptcy recovery plans for companies. And we're going to actually do our own funding round in order to be involved in the process, where people can decide based upon their funds whether they would invest in our company in order to actually win the bid and execute something. So we think that's pretty cool. In the future, what I would love to have seen is, imagine if we could just get everyone's proposal where they create a funding round on Bank to the Future, and then they competing. So imagine if we could get FTX or anyone else, or Abra or someone that wanted to do it, and then people could actually decide by allocating their investment and putting their money where their mouth is. So we've been thinking about different things like that, and we're going to be launching something in the coming weeks. Because to really solve some of these problems. Now, it's not going to be exactly what you're looking for, where people can vote, and unfortunately, the bankruptcy code doesn't allow for it because Celsius is in exclusivity right now, and if Celsius didn't apply for an exclusivity extension, then maybe the UCC could create something like that. But they've expressed that they don't want to do that because there's other forces at work where they think, for example, different interest groups would try and take advantage of the process. So it's really all the innovation in the world. We need to play within the laws of the bankruptcy code, and that's been really challenging. Just doing what I've done, we had to risk being sued by sharing information because you have to do it in a way where you're not submitting a full plan. And you have to submit it to the right person, and then you have to sign the right agreements. And if you sign those agreements, you've got to sign up to not speaking to anyone and various other things. So I hope that we can see something like that, but just initiatives to the UCC. But while Celsius is in exclusivity, they own the process.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you for answering them. And as soon as our funds are unlocked and we have a chance to move them again, myself, along with all of my friends, will be coming over to your platform, whether it comes with equity or not, or whatever. We believe in everything you've done and everything you've said. And I mean, you're really the only one that has been vocal and honest with us, in our opinion. So thank you for everything.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I really respect your trust. I take that very seriously. From the very first investment that we moved over to Bank to the Future, we take that as a really, really serious responsibility. So, that's something we just really don't mess around with, and it's really driven our team. Thank you.
Yes, Simon, and as it relates to the informational website that BitShack actually started and I'm a part of and helping him launch that, we've just run into a couple of issues we're trying to work through, but basically the website is just an informational website. So everyone won't have to go through all of different Twitter feeds. It's just like a landing page where the different proposals and charts and information can be found. But we want to be careful that we're not interfering with anything the UCC or Stretto puts out there. It's just, none of it is our opinion. It's just other Twitter people that have Twitter handles where they can, link their information to it. So having said that, I do have someone up on the stage, the agent Metro.
Hey, can I put a challenge to you? Can you try and frame your question in either a scary moment, and if you can't do it, I'm going to try and frame it into a scary answer.
Me or the next person?
Whoever's next.
Okay, the agent Metro, that would be. Okay, looks like he got scared away.
There we go.
Mark, go ahead.
Simon, Mary, good afternoon. Simon, good evening on your end. Thank you as always for co-hosting spaces. I'm playing catch up right now. I just saw the summary of the matters that are going to be discussed and hopefully adjudicated at tomorrow's hearing. I was wondering if you and your attorneys have had a chance to go through that, and secondly, if you will be attending the hearing. And just wanted to see where you are with that.
Awesome, Mark. Yeah, no. So let me frame that. Do you want to know the scariest part of this whole process? Lawyers and legal fees. They're damn scary. They scared the shit out of me throughout this whole process in many different directions, but they're a necessary part of the process, and hopefully that leads to something better in the end. But yes, legal fees, damn scary. So yeah, I'll be back to tonight. I'm kind of goofing around a little bit, being a bit more lighthearted, and doing some Halloweeny things. So tomorrow I'll be back for the hearing and getting very serious again. I'll definitely do some coverage on Twitter.
And I'm going to go ahead and, Mary, I don't know if you already posted on the website the instructions for how people can attend tomorrow's hearing. I was going to make a Twitter post about that, but if you guys already covered that,
oh no, please do that. That would be very useful. Could you pin it to your profile, and anyone that wants to know how to attend the hearing, Mark, who's on the speaker list right now, will have it pinned to his profile. That would be really useful.
We'll take care of that now. All right, Simon, Mary, thank you guys. I'm going to drop down and be a speaker or a listener, and go ahead and post the instructions of how everyone can attend.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. We had Daylong that was trying to come up. He was having connection problems, but he's going to try again.
Okay, anybody would like to share a scary moment in crypto? How are we doing for time? How long have we been going for?
We've been going for 45 minutes, so we've got another 15.
Okay, awesome. Please do share any of your scary moments in crypto. We have nobody in the queue.
Let me jump in. So,
Go on, Azad.
what's it? Me and what's it? Do you remember that time, Simon, when we were in London, and Bitcoin or this whole crypto stuff was just like, what the hell was going on? I think it was in Brick Lane, or I think it was in Google Campus, and I think you were going to go up next, but the presentation that was happening, I just thought, where the hell am I? Bunch of geeks and everything, and these guys were just talking about crates, milk crates, and graphic processors, and I just thought,
setting up the mining rig on a milk crate. I do remember that.
Look, this was, I mean, I think it was in the financial crisis part. I think it was it 2018 or something, and
2008 or something.
Yeah, and I was.
Sorry, not for Bitcoin. No,
I was being dragged along. We were going in these trader communities, and you were doing your whole monetary campaign. And before you know it, we're surrounded by a bunch of people, and I mean, what was crazy was the fact that you had picked up on everything within 24 hours and went on stage and started speaking about all the stuff that you had to learn there and then. But I was just like thinking, what is this crazy stuff they're talking about? Graphic processors, their rooms getting on fire or getting heated up, and or the amount of energy that they're using.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm
No,
trying
this
to
is
say
when.
here.
So this is the
No, but
lesson
what I'm
from it.
what
This is when you
I,
could mine with CPU. So
yeah.
you originally
But
had.
they were just talking about colored coins. Let me just say this one final point, and I think a lot of people forget because we're still in this space and we're in our little bubble. But there's millions and millions of people who still don't know about crypto or Bitcoin, and it's already scary enough with what's going on globally and in countries like the UK or other countries where the currency is just completely devalued. And here we have very technical stuff being spoken about, very, very bright people in this whole space, and many people making money, and many people really talking about this. And yet, the one fundamental thing that a lot of people are finding quite confusing and they're struggling to grasp is this whole new concept called crypto and Bitcoin, and the new, millions that people are actually making, where there's going to be a lot of people who have fallen behind and not going to be able to jump on this bandwagon. So if we're talking about scary, the conversations that I have with ordinary people who have no idea about what's going on, but hearing it, and then when you get ordinary people just coming to you and then trying to sell you one coin, that's when it gets scary.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought I'd share that. Those my journey, seeing all of this, and hanging with Simon and Bliss, it's been crazy. It still is scary in that
Yeah.
respect. Yeah.
Well, I
Did
tell
you
you.
know crypto? Did you know crypto at that point
Look,
growing
man,
up?
I could have been a multimillionaire by now. Come on, the amount of Bitcoin was being sold at £200. And I was there where someone was getting interviewed by the BBC and all sorts. It's just, I don't know, man. Those are my scary moments.
So the scariest moment is missing and not believing because it was too scary at the time. But do you know what? It's a very, very common story. I know people that were at the very first Bitcoin conference. Um, you know, like Amir Taki, for example, he was there at the beginning, and he still he literally just went hustling on the front line in Syria, trying to fight ISIS and stuff, and he was sending requests for Bitcoin. I'm like, Amir, I'm like, I'm a CEO of a regulated company. I can't start sending Bitcoins for these crazy things. But yeah, so the point is that there were many people, and here's what I've signed. This is the real scary thing. When the market is pumping like crazy at the peak, is when they all come over and say, "Hey, Simon, that Bitcoin thing. Can you tell me how to get some Bitcoin?" And I'm like, well, where were you when, right now, when nobody wants Bitcoin? And then you get these moments where everybody capitulates and there's no one wants it. And it's ghost town. Like nobody's contacting me, in the normal world where, you're non-Bitcoin people. Nobody's contacting me, but the only time they contact me is when it's just pumping like crazy. So all they want to do is buy at all-time highs and sell at all-time lows. And that's why I've always tried to help people understand that trading is a losing game, and investing is the path. And if you can do the exact opposite of it, it's like the most obvious thing, but the hardest thing to execute. And so the great equalizer is dollar cost averaging and investing and putting together an investment thesis where you don't get distracted by the day-to-day news and what's happening. You just stick to what you're doing. And the best thing that ever happened to me is when I figured out that all I need to do is do the same thing every month. And it completely changed my financial future when I stopped trying to figure out what, just literally just the same thing every month. And so many people that just active in the market, just trying to always find the next thing. They never survive. They never get past that point. So anyway, that's pretty scary.
Yeah, you have a lot of scary moments there, being that you've been in the space for quite some time. And I think I know the answer to this question, but everybody always looks for their security blanket, if you will, like their safe space. And for you having all those scary moments, I'm going to say bliss was your security blanket, obviously. What would you say? Would you agree with me? It was bliss for sure.
I mean, certainly, I wouldn't be anywhere near where we are, and like all the things she implemented in the business. But my safety blanket was study. Whenever I'm uncertain about something, I study, and I'm obsessive beyond obsessive. Maybe some of you learned that from this whole Celsius process. But once I want to learn something, I will go deep into. So when I first wanted to understand the banking system, I watched a conspiracy theory. I was interviewed by Bill Still, who created the Money Masters, that went deep into, the whole Rothschild thing and JP Morgan's and the whole history. But I would never, when they explained to me like fractional reserve banking, I would never accept that it just existed because someone said it. I'd actually start reading the original bank charters, and I'd go back hundreds of years and start reading like the original documents where the laws actually changed. And so I just obsess over studying information. And when I get the information, then I can feel confident in the things. So to me, information is power, but then information put into action is even more powerful. So experiential learning, like when I discovered how Bitcoin worked, it didn't click to me until I actually had Bitcoin on my phone, and then I sent it to somebody, and I was like, why is it not sending now? What's that unconfirmed mean? Oh, right, it's miners, and the miners are going out and they're verifying the transaction. Why is that taking so long? And so experiential learning. So that has always been my comfort blanket is learning, experiencing, being willing to make mistakes, and just keep going until you know what you're doing.
Yeah, all those mistakes are certainly scary, but it's it's how you handle them for sure. So that's a good security blanket for sure.
Yeah, maybe that is the lesson, that actually your scariest moments are actually your greatest learning experiences. And maybe that's a good place to end if we don't have anyone that's going to come up and share more scary moments. But it is actually the scariest moments that you have, which are your greatest moments of growth, if you don't let them paralyze you into fear. Fear and greed is what drives human behavior. But the more we can eliminate those and learn from things, and overcome that fear, because your worst decisions are always made from a place of fear. I don't know about you. When you get in that fear-driven moment, obviously there's fight or flight, and sometimes fear can be used to drive you into the necessary action. But sometimes fear can be, or very often, your worst decision making. So sometimes you need to step back, and use fear as a feel the fear and do it anyway. I think that was a book. You don't need to read the whole book because it says it all in the title. Oh, we've got some more requests now.
Yes, Nala is connecting now, so we'll give her just a second. Wait a minute, I can't see. I'm sorry. Yeah, Nala. Still trying to connect.
What's really scary? Some of these avatars on Twitter. I think the people that scare me the most are cats now. Twitter cats. They're always out to get me. Whenever there's a cat, it's always negative.
Yeah, they have some claws. They can claw you. Now.
Yeah, sorry, it was my bad. I didn't unmute myself.
Oh, you're worse. We can hear you.
Excellent. Yeah, firstly, I just want to express my ongoing gratitude for everything you're doing, Simon. I've been an avid follower of you and active commenter, but yeah, I'm just super grateful for the passion and effort that you've put into everything. My scariest moment, without question, is the Celsius, when Celsius paused withdrawals, because I literally sold my house to buy Bitcoin and put the whole bank on Celsius. And that period of time when I thought, wow, is it all gone? Is the whole lot lost? I thought, gosh, what have I done?
Yeah, I think, well, that's probably something every single person on this can relate to. Maybe not as extreme as selling your house and putting everything in. But you know, it's when I hear what people did, that it really just drives a greater sense of this is really, really important work. And while we are all like battling it out on Twitter, and you know, sometimes we get into our crazy moments, it is actually really, really serious things behind this that we all are fighting for here. And we need to just recognize and appreciate that we all need to have a greater sense of responsibility, that everyone that's contributing to this right now is actually doing really, really important work. You know, that there are people, just like the story you just heard, where this is actually their lifetime work and their financial future. And most people work a whole lifetime to buy their house, and then they took you know, they went into Bitcoin because they believed in it, and they ended up with all of it on Celsius in a pause. So everything we're doing here, we just have to appreciate that collectively we can turn this into something, and it's really important work that we do that. And then plus, you know, there's only we can fight right till the end, but there's certain things in this world that we just can't control, and so those things that we can't control, we have to just learn from, and we have to figure out, you know, what our plan is as well. So, but yeah, it really does fill me with a real great sense of responsibility when I hear, you know, people's situations and thinking there is something that we can do. But we are collectively doing it, and being able to do this together and share this whole journey on Twitter is pretty uncanny, because before Celsius, I'd never done a Twitter space before. And then suddenly I don't know how, I don't know why, we just all ended up on Twitter space. And I've never had these two-way engagements with my followers. I push out a YouTube video and then I have to read everyone's comments. But actually having these two-way conversations, I think it's just added so much to the process. And it just happened that Twitter Spaces got traction at the right time. And sometimes everything's about that timing. And I don't think we could have done this without Twitter Spaces. I think we'd all just be fighting like crazy on Reddit posts and shouting at each other. But there's a massively different energy when we just get on and have a two-way conversation and speak, because we're humans, and we seem to act differently in writing than we do in voice. So thank you so much for sharing your story, because I hear it from such a different level when someone comes up and shares it through voice. I don't know, there's something about that. Maybe I'm just more audio.
Thank you. Yeah.
I agree with you, Nella and Simon. You know, and I can't remember who said the quote, but that success is not final, failure is not fatal, but it's the courage to continue that counts. So, you know, for me, there's only one thing that makes a dream impossible to achieve. It's the fear of failure, and we shouldn't be fearful of that. That's for sure.
Oh yeah. Okay, I'm going to end here unless someone really, really wants to share another scary story. I think it was really nice to just take a bit of a break from, you know, really challenging each other on solutions and things like that, and actually just recognize that we are all humans experiencing these different journeys. It's actually my birthday this week, 4th of November. So I'm going to try and enjoy that as well, and remember that there's Halloween and bonfire night. And at the end of the day, we all have these crazy things in Twitter, but you know, the thing that we do have to remember is that we're all united through love. And sometimes we have to remember that. Sometimes we forget that, but we're all here because Bitcoin unified us, and Satoshi Nakamoto created this white paper that was just maths. And then it turned into code. And the only reason we're here right now is because this thing that should never have succeeded did succeed. And that's just an incredible achievement. And the other thing I always try to remember is gratitude. That no matter how bad your problem is, there's always somebody that would absolutely kill for your problem. And so try and remember, what is your biggest problem right now that somebody else in the world would actually really do anything to have that problem. Your biggest problem is something that somebody else would be consider their biggest gift. And there's always somebody that's experiencing things worse. And the fact that you're even able to be engaged in this conversation means that you probably come from privilege. And sometimes we forget, compared to other people that aren't involved in this, don't have the technology, don't even have the phone. Some people don't even have the ability to hear these conversations, express their views. So there's always something to be grateful for. So everybody go out, enjoy your Halloween. I certainly have enjoyed this journey together. And I will always try and remember that I think there's great things at the other side. So thank you for everybody that's participating. And speaking of gratitude, always remember you're alive at one of the most interesting and exciting times in financial history. Some get really hurt. You could do really well. And let's try and make sure that we're all on the right side of that change. Peace, love, unity. Bye-bye.